All right, man, peace. So, brothers, in this video right here, we're going to be going over the sacrificial ritualistic murders that occurred this past Sunday, April 21st, i.e. Easter Sunday, in the capital city of Colombo, Sri Lanka. And as I've covered in previous videos pertaining to the quote-unquote so-called holiday known as Easter Sunday, it has nothing to do with the Christ of the Bible. It has everything to do with the veneration of the Mother Goddess, and the concept of the Mother Goddess and the worship and veneration of her is pertaining to all of her aspects, whether it be love, lust, or death and destruction. The Mother Goddess also demands a sacrifice. And if you pay very close attention to the mainstream news reports, they're going to let you know why those people were murdered in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and why those deaths occurred in that city. All you brothers have to do is take a look at a video that I did a while ago pertaining to the Luciferian rapper by the name of Cardi B. She recently did a pair of Super Bowl commercials for Pepsi. And I broke those commercials down and let you brothers know that the reason why one of the main motifs of those two ads was the pigeon, or the dove per se, in accordance with Cardi B, is because she was channeling the quote-unquote dove goddess aspect of the Mother Goddess, also known as Juno. There are a multitude of names that the quote-unquote Mother Goddess goes by that allude to her being simpatico with or symbolic of a dove, which itself is symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And whether those names be Dion, Juno, Columbia, Colombo, Colomba, etc., or even Semiramis, all those names mean the same thing, either pigeon or dove. Why is that? Because once again, the dove or the pigeon became a symbol for the Holy Spirit, and the Mother Goddess became synonymous with the worship of the sky or the air or the atmosphere. Like in ancient Kemet, the quote-unquote goddess Hathor was not only known as a cow goddess but also as a sky goddess. Why is that? Because within the sky you have the sun, and the sun, as we all know, was symbolic of the Mother Goddess's actual son, that being quote-unquote Heru or Horus. Hathor or Isis gave birth to Heru or Horus. But just to get back to the point, this entire ritual that occurred this past Easter, it was clearly a sacrifice to the Mother Goddess Easter, which is another name, once again, for the feminine principle that is worshipped. Easter, or Astarte or Ishtar, demands a blood sacrifice. I cannot stress that hard enough. Within the various offshoots of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system and its various incarnations across the world, they make it very clear that the Mother Goddess has a nurturing aspect, she has a love or lust aspect, and she has a warrior or death aspect. In Greece, the death aspect was known as Nike. In Rome, she was known as Victory or Victoria, or even Minerva. In Kemet, she was known as Maut or Sekhmet. In India, she was known as Kali. All of those entities demand that their venerators or their worshippers, their idolaters, provide a sacrifice, provide blood. That was depicted in the film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Once again, go back and watch those two videos that I did on Cardi B being an avatar of the dove goddess. I even went into detail on many of the aspects of the quote-unquote Columbine ritual killings that occurred in 1999, also during quote-unquote Earth Week, or that time period that is closely associated with the Mother Goddess. This entire time period is all about the Mother Goddess, brothers, leading up to May 1st, which is about her son slash husband, i.e. Nimrod, also known as Bel. That's why the quote-unquote holiday is known as Beltane in the Druidic system. You brothers should look some of these things up, because that's what this is all about. Once again, another name for the dove goddess is Columbia or Columba. That is why they had this event occur in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Once again, the word for dove in Latin is Colombo or Columba, and that's for the Mother Goddess, also known as Juno. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Welcome to CBS This Morning. We have breaking news from Sri Lanka after a series of deadly terror attacks on Easter Sunday.
And brothers, let me say this as well. All of these anchors on TV, they're all actors. Behind the scenes, they all worship the Mother Goddess, the horned god, and their son as well. And when I say their son, I'm talking about Heru or Tammuz or Adonis.
There was a new explosion in the capital, Colombo, just a short time ago. This latest blast followed a string of suicide bombings targeting Christians celebrating Easter.
Brothers, when they say suicide bombers, they're talking about Manchurian candidates, assassins who are under mind control. They're trying to demonize the quote-unquote religion of Islam. Why is that? Because Islam still favors a lot of the conventional gender roles of male and female. They still, at least on the exterior, forbid homosexuality and lesbianism. That's why they're trying to quote-unquote demonize Islam. They claim that this is an attack on Catholics or Catholicism. That's nonsense. They're trying to build up some type of back and forth between both of these quote-unquote religions, which are both offshoots of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system, mixed in with many of the tenets of the scriptures. That's all Catholicism and Islam are. But Islam tries to maintain a lot of the more conventional gender roles that are consistent with what the Most High demands of humankind. That the woman have on a dress, have her head covered, that the man have facial hair or a beard or what have you. So they're trying to demonize Islam because of that. And they're claiming that the Muslims are attacking the Catholic Church. That's not true. This was an execution of a sacrifice for the same mother goddess that Catholics and quote unquote Christians worship on Easter, when they claim that they're worshiping the Son of the Most High, that being Christ, when in all reality they're worshiping the mother goddess. You understand that? They're worshiping the mother goddess, that being Easter. The word Easter is the same as the name Ishtar or Astarte. It's the same word. Very few people want to actually do research and look these things up. But one of the pseudonyms of the mother goddess is as the dove goddess, because she was symbolically associated with the Holy Spirit. The dove is the symbol of the Holy Spirit, or the spirit that gives life. That's why in a roundabout way, on a low level, they're constantly trying to push the image of the woman in this society as the life giver. When you get into a back and forth with one of these feminist women, what do they say? Women give life. All that is nonsense. Life is created when a man puts his penis inside of a woman and his sperm inseminates her egg. That's how life is created. You cannot have life without women. You cannot have life without men. They come together and they create new life. But in this society, they push the woman as the creator of life because they want every woman to believe that she's a microcosm of the mother goddess, that life restoring spirit, or that life giving spirit, I should say.
The Sri Lankan government says they were carried out by a local group of Muslim radicals.
Nonsense.
The bombing killed at least 290 people and wounded hundreds more. U.S. officials say several Americans are among the dead.
Sri Lanka's health minister says warnings from intelligence agencies were not followed. The terrorists targeted 3 churches and 3 luxury hotels in nearly simultaneous attacks on Easter.
Now, brothers, you see that? They attacked the capital city of Sri Lanka, known as Colombo. Once again, that name Colombo means the dove or the pigeon. The name Semiramis, who was the wife/mother of Nimrod, it means the pigeon or the branch bearer. That's what it means. The name Juno means the dove. The name Columbia or Colombo means the dove. Columbia Pictures, Columbia Records, Columbia Broadcasting Systems. It's all for the mother goddess. It's all the same thing. This society venerates the mother goddess, the horn god, and their son. The mother goddess is for the masses. The horn god is the deity, the quote-unquote deity, that is worshipped behind the curtain or behind the scenes.
Easter Sunday morning. Elizabeth Palmer's in Colombo, the capital, near one of the bombers' targets yesterday. Elizabeth, good morning to you on this terrible day in Sri Lanka.
Once again, brothers, Colombo, Columbine. They recently had a 20th year anniversary of that stage event at Columbine, where they had those 2 MK Ultra sleeper agents, those 2 Manchurian candidates. I believe the names were Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. They ran up in that school dressed in all black because they were witches and killed 13 people, 12 students, 1 teacher. That was symbolic, right? On the right hand side, of course, we know that's Christ and the 12 apostles or 12 disciples. On the left hand side, that's a witch's coven. You understand that? And when they had the 20th year anniversary for that event, what did they do? They released doves into the sky.
Indeed, I'm standing right in front of the first church to be bombed yesterday, San Sebastian. And as I was walking down here about half an hour ago to talk to you, that other bomb went off just around the corner. We don't know about casualties yet, but witnesses say that police had spotted a suspicious van, and when the bomb squad turned up to try and defuse what turned out to be a bomb inside, it went off. Just a short time ago, the Sri Lankan government, as you said, has accused this local homegrown Islamist extremist group.
Nonsense. All that is a cover for the Luciferians who actually run this world, quote unquote, run this world. Even though everything that goes on is under the auspices of the Most High. Most of these people are under a great and a grand deception. They believe that they're pushing and promoting the energies of their quote unquote triune or Godhead. Once again, that being the horn god, the mother goddess, and their son. But they're actually doing it at the permission or according to the permission of the Most High. That's how this is actually being executed. But they create all of these different levels of confusion so that no one is able to understand what's going on unless the Most High wills it that you have the understanding to know what's going on. So they want to demonize the Muslims. That's why they always attribute so many of these quote unquote terrorist attacks to ISIS. Who is ISIS? That's another name for the mother goddess, brothers. You understand?
Tawhid Jamaat of carrying out yesterday's bombings, and specifically they said that the group sent 7 suicide bombers to do the deed, all of them Sri Lankan.
Yes, 7, the number of completion.
The church clock of St. Anthony here in Colombo, the minute it was hit. Now forensic teams are combing through the debris looking for evidence. Yesterday, Sri Lankan special forces carried out raids in the capital and 3 officers died. But by this morning, the government announced 24 men were under arrest. Yesterday's attack was coordinated.
Wow. Whatever is in that is dead, dead, dead. Looks like they just carrying a hunk of flesh.
And of unprecedented cruelty. It left landmark churches in ruins and killed or maimed scores of Roman Catholics.
Once again, brothers, they're going to try to build this up as an Islamic attack on Roman Catholics, when in all reality, it's Luciferians trying to pit both sides against one another. Because the Luciferians understand what the day of Easter actually is. Roman Catholics and so-called Christians have no idea what Easter actually is for. They actually try to convince themselves and convince others that Easter is for Jesus Christ of the scriptures, when it is not. Easter has nothing to do with Christ whatsoever. It is a solar holiday geared towards the sun goddess, aka the earth goddess. That's why right after Easter, we head into what they call quote unquote Earth Week for the goddess of vegetation, quote unquote Mother Earth. That's why you'll notice they always say Mother Earth or Mother Nature and Father Time. Who is Father Time, brothers? That's talking about Saturn or Kronos. You understand? Mother Earth is Gaia. They created their son. Their son is the young lord of vegetation, Heru or Tammuz or Adonis. Also known as Demuzid, spelled D as in David, U as in umbrella, M as in Michael, U as in umbrella, Z as in zebra, I as in India, D as in David.
What should have been one of the most joyous days in the Christian calendar has left overwhelming grief.
Very unfortunate.
At the 3 hotels that were bombed, Sri Lankans and tourists alike died as they gathered for Easter brunch. Colombo's mayor, Rosie Senanayake.
This is a very sad moment. This is a very cowardly attack.
Yes, a very sad moment. I'm just realizing that Sri Lanka has a bunch of simps too. How the hell did you become the mayor of Colombo, Sri Lanka? Unless she was placed there, who knows? She might be a well-placed plant.
And it's not just an attack, it's a very gruesome attack on humanity.
A civil war between Buddhist and Hindu Sri Lankans raged here for 30 years, and suicide bombs were a common weapon. But that war ended in 2009, and Sri Lankans believe the...
Wow. Did you see that hunk of flesh that was in those sheets? Oh my goodness.
The worst of the violence was over. They were wrong.
All those are idols. The Catholic Church is all about idols. That's all they care to adhere to. That's all they care to venerate. They're as concerned with the worship of quote unquote Mary. And Mary in the Catholic Church is just a personification of Isis or Demeter. It's not talking about the Mary of the scriptures. That's why they pray to Mary in the Catholic Church. They have a prayer called Hail Mary.
In Colombo, police are everywhere today. Normally crowded streets are quiet, and schools remain closed in a country both stunned and fearful.
They are afraid, but they are also angry. As I came through the streets here after that most recent bomb went off, people poured out of their houses suddenly, and they mobbed soldiers who were trying to get through on motorcycles. There's no question the situation here is very tense. With the history of violence in this country, the government is very nervous that things could explode.
Well, they should be concerned. And that's the after effect of having agents of chaos promoting anarchy all across the earth and trying to cast various religious factions against one another.
Nora, well, it looks that way this morning. Elizabeth Palmer in Sri Lanka, thank you. John Miller is New York City's Deputy Police Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism. He's also our former senior correspondent. John, good morning. You just heard.
All he is a misinformation/disinformation agent. Either this dude has no idea what he's talking about, or he does know what actually happened, and his job is to get on TV and push the basic intelligence agency narrative that there are various components that are associated with these religious groups that are trying to wage war against one another and destabilize one another, so on and so forth.
Just heard Elizabeth Palmer describe it as a tense situation there, that controlled explosion, as well as Sri Lankan police finding 87 bomb detonators at a bus station this morning. What are you hearing from your intelligence counterparts?
Well, Nora O'Donnell, I'll tell you what I heard from the intelligence within my skull. That being that this was a ritualistic sacrifice. I mean, and it's so obvious, but you have to be in the know. You have to understand the meaning of words and place names, so on and so forth. You have to really be able to grasp a lot of different things. If you don't know these things, they're going to go right over your head. And they're going to push these narratives into your skull, into your brain, to make you feel a certain way, as opposed to understand and know things. Once you know things, much of the emotion and the false understandings, they go by the wayside, as they should.
Well, from the time that started in about 4-something in the morning yesterday, Chief Tom Galati, Chief of Intelligence, Chief James Waters from Counterterrorism, the wheels started turning in New York about getting information about what they were seeing there and what we heard we didn't like, which is a complex multi-location attack that was very well organized, and then making sure we put the pieces into place here against any similar targets.
Brothers, let me say this. For those of you who've ever seen some of the Avengers films, they have enemies, and then they have a lot of covert enemies. Like, for example, in the Captain America film, and even in one of the Iron Man films, there was a subtext of an enemy that operated in the shadows known as Hydra. And there was a great scene, I believe it was in Iron Man 2, where a congressman played by Gary Shandling, he approaches another operative, and, they're talking about things pertaining to some inane matters. They're speaking about something that's not really pertinent or relevant. And then Gary Shandling's character, who's a U.S. congressman, he leans in on the person and he says, "Hail Hydra," to let him know that he's a part of the quote-unquote deep state rulership of the planet Earth. The deep state government. There's an overt government and there's a covert government that people do not truly grasp. Where the leaders of the world, they come together and they show obeisance to Baal, to Molech, to Juno, etc. That's why these events occur. But they cannot let you know that, because if you knew that, then people will start to grasp the relevance of the scriptures. They're trying to get you to divest yourself or excise yourself from the scriptures, from the Bible, so that you can lean unto your own understanding. Therefore, you'll be much more likely to either obey the television or just engage in empty conjecture. That's why you have these people always talking about how everything is a hoax, because they really don't know anything. They don't understand anything. They no longer adhere to the spiritual aspect, so therefore they no longer can conceive of spiritual matters.
You don't like the idea of a complex, multi-destination because it suggests an outside force outside of the country?
I think when you look at this and you see 7 or 8 locations off the bat in near simultaneous staggers with then other later ones, then raids on places where suspects set off bombs, what you're looking at is the kind of operation that would take a great deal of organization, a good deal of funding, and more importantly, a fairly large number of people for your average terrorist plot, which increase.
Let me say this also, and this is just to digress from this video for a moment. A lot of you brothers have to stop following behind these females in these fake holidays, man. I've stated this in the past. The woman is deeply embedded into the culture of the Babylonian Kemetic Mystery School system. They love Christmas, they love Easter. You have to stop following behind them, because when you follow behind them, what that ensures is that your children are going to be adherents to the Babylonian Kemetic Mystery School system. You have to let your lady know that you're not about that. And if you're going to have a child with her, your child's not going to be about that. Once again, look up the history of Easter. It has nothing to do with the resurrection of Christ whatsoever. The egg is a symbol of the mother goddess, because according to folklore, the quote-unquote goddess Aphrodite emerged out of an egg. The rabbit is a symbol of fertility. Once again, a symbol of the goddess of lust, Aphrodite, also known as Ishtar, also known as Inanna, also known as Easter, according to the Druids and the Celts. All right, so that's where those emblems or those symbols come from.
Increases operational security. How did they run this for so long with so much planning and so many wheels turning without it being found? Exactly, Gail.
Yes, how did that happen unless they got help from undercover intelligence agents from across the world? Or maybe this was executed by undercover intelligence agents from across the world.
Then there's word that the government had been told something 10 days ago, that there could be an attack on a church. Does that mean they didn't believe it, didn't take it seriously?
Well, they did put out a notice to other government officials warning that they were taking this seriously and that the threat itself touched a number of important other investigations. So, and we've seen this here in the United States, Gail. That's one of those things that, and I think the government had the right take on it. Let's figure out who did it and get them first, and then let's look at our own processes after. And that's what they said they're going to do.
As you can see this morning.
And let me say this also, brothers. There are many people who are firmly embedded in many of the governments across the world who have no idea what's going on from the deep state perspective. They have no idea that the person working right next to them is an asset of the deep state government, who worship Saturn and Venus, Apollo, so on and so forth, Pan. They're just there thinking that that everyone is on board to work together to make sure that their country is safe and secure and so on and so forth. But there are deep state assets in every government, and their job is to make sure that events like this are executed on certain dates, at certain times, in certain places, to make sure that those in the know understand the significance of the event.
They're worried about more attacks coming, and so the Sri Lankan government shut down all social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, some other social media.
Of course they did, because they didn't want the people going on YouTube and watching certain videos or hearing certain things that might make them think that their government was confederate in what occurred.
Sites that are used there in Sri Lanka. Does that help the situation, do you believe, that they took?
You know, it's hard to second guess them from here. You know, that is always something that sends a chill up a democratic government. But their stated reason was to prevent misinformation. And we've seen a lot of discussion since they did that about, I believe the headline in one major newspaper was, you know, the tensions are the heat and social media can be the match.
Well, there's definitely a lot of misinformation out there. There's no doubt about that. On social media, YouTube in particular, there are a lot of people who like to speak on things where you could tell they really just don't understand what they're talking about. They just want to get their hot take out there as fast as possible. And that can cause a lot of confusion.
John, we've been talking about lone wolves for the last period of time when we talk about terrorism, but this sense of coordination, does that put in mind for you any particular organization?
We're living in an age of surveillance. For anything on that large a scale to occur, and it not be stopped or impeded, it's very obvious that there were intelligence agencies that were involved in making sure that this stratagem was executed without a hitch. This notion that the Sri Lankan government was aware of it and they took it seriously, but this still occurred, that's BS. The Sri Lankan government, if they were aware of it, it's because they were confederate with it. They were elite members of the Sri Lankan government who are a part of the deep state global government, who venerate Juno and Heru and the horn god. And they knew that on the day of Easter for the mother goddess, there was a great sacrifice that had to occur to appease her. A great blood sacrifice that had to occur to appease the quote-unquote mother goddess. According to the Bacchanalian mysteries, or what they call the Eleusinian mysteries, for the mother goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone, the goddess of hell, or the queen of hell.
So I think we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions. Well, let's make it three. Number one, is this the resurgence of Al-Qaeda, which has been expanding its network to pick up these affiliates?
Al-Qaeda meaning the database. Al-Qaeda has already been, it's already pretty much been shown that Al-Qaeda is a construct. Is a construct to basically be used as control opposition, so that certain deep state factions can utilize or execute strategies and agendas and blame them.
Because it is certainly more their style. Number two, is this an ISIS influence group when ISIS has gone from being a caliphate, gone from being an infantry, and now remains solely as a terrorist group?
More control opposition. The name ISIS was applied, or that acronym was applied to that faction to show that, once again, there is obeisance to the mother goddess. Isis is the mother goddess of ancient Kemet. That is pretty much the supreme aspect of that dynamic of the feminine principle, is the term Isis. She's the goddess of witchcrafts. She also demands a sacrifice, as all versions of the mother goddess do.
And number three, is this a local group that has grown in sophistication and complexity?
Absolutely. So much complexity that they were able to execute a nationwide terrorist attack and nobody could stop it. That makes a lot of sense. No, sir.
Right. The 3 churches and luxury hotels, does that say anything to you?
It certainly does.
Yeah, they were targeting as many so-called Catholics and Christians as possible. And when I say they, I'm not talking about so-called Muslims. I'm talking about the deep state operatives who wanted to make sure that the sacrifice on Easter was a success and could garner as much attention as possible. That was the point of them bombing hotels and things like that, where they knew that there would be a lot of tourists.
Certainly says this was a attack directed against Christians specifically.
Agreed.
With a tinge of economic targets.
Agreed.
They want to strike at a given religion, and I think we've been waiting for that shoe to drop since the attack on the mosque in New Zealand, in that both on the 15th for ISIS and on the 18th for Al-Qaeda, their leaders have called on all the affiliate groups to do an attack in revenge for that.
All front organizations, and even the so-called white supremacists that attacked the mosque a couple of weeks ago, as he stated, that was nothing but another sleeper agent. That's all that was, another Manchurian candidate.
And that is speculation there, but it's certainly something we have to look at.
Got it.
All right, John Miller, thanks so much for being here, John.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. Make sure that you stay vigilant. Always put the Most High first to the best of your ability. And always make sure that you research and do your best to grasp, understand, comprehend what's going on around you. Walk circumspectly. So peace. Okay, so now, brothers, in this epilogue, I'm just going to expound on certain sentiments that I put forth in the video that I did on the quote-unquote Easter massacre that occurred this past Easter Sunday in Colombo, Sri Lanka. And what I stated in the video is what occurred, that being that was a mass ritualistic sacrifice for the mother goddess. Most people do not know that Easter is not for Christ. Easter is for the mother goddess. All the term Easter is a Celtic version or Celtic rendition of the name Ishtar. Ishtar is the Babylonian goddess of war. She's the Babylonian goddess of love, lust, etc. The rabbit, the egg, those are all symbols of Ishtar. Once again, according to the Babylonian Kemetic Mystery School system, Ishtar was born out of an egg. The egg descended down from the sky, landed, I believe, in a river, and the egg cracked open, and she emerged out from it. She was known in ancient Sumer as Inanna, and I'll be covering that aspect of the Mother Goddess in other videos, particularly in the movie reviews for Us, as well as Captain Marvel. But just getting back to the point, the Mother Goddess always demands a blood sacrifice, especially in the springtime. And as I stated in the video, the months April, May, and June are all named after the Mother Goddess. April or April means to open forth or to spring forth, to sprout. Remember that the Mother Goddess is a goddess of quote-unquote vegetation. That's why we have Earth Week. And there's a reason why Earth Week starts with what? With Easter. Because Easter is for the Mother Goddess. Earth Week is for the Mother Goddess, the goddess of vegetation. And it culminates in May 1st, that being Beltane, for Bel or Baal. Okay? But just to get back to the point, as I stated in the video, the Mother Goddess was also known as the Dove Goddess because the dove symbolizes the Holy Spirit, the spirit of life, the ability to create life. Remember that the Mother Goddess has a name known as Gaia, meaning Mother Earth. That's an allusion to Eve. Remember, the name Eve means life. You understand? So in antiquity, many of the nations of the world, they worshipped Eve. They also worshipped Adam. Eve is known as Mother Earth. Adam is known as Father Time. So Adam was Saturn. When Nimrod was brought forth, Nimrod attempted to fulfill many of the characteristics of Adam as well. In the same way that Adam went astray, Nimrod went astray. But just to get back to the point, the Mother Goddess is associated with vegetation. She's also associated with the dove, because the dove represents the spirit, particularly the Holy Spirit. So in an attempt to try to abduct the actual meaning of the Holy Spirit, they started to liken certain prominent female figures, whether it be Eve or Semiramis, with the dove. For example, the name Juno means dove. The name Semiramis means dove. There's a name for Aphrodite that also means a dove. The Mother Goddess is always associated with the dove. Another term for America is Columbia, because America is ruled under the inspiration of the Mother Goddess. Once again, the Mother Goddess is the quote-unquote God for the masses. She's meant to be the deity for the masses. Behind the curtain is the horned God. But for the masses, they want the God of this world to be the Mother Goddess and her son. And as we can see here, I have a translator app opened, and the word for dove in French is Colombe. Let's check it in some other languages. In Italian, the word is Colomba. So oftentimes when you read history, they'll tell you that the term District of Columbia or Washington, D.C. comes from Christopher Columbus. That's not true. America was not named after Christopher Columbus. America was named after the Mother Goddess. Okay, brothers? America was named after the Mother Goddess. That's why you see so many statues of the Mother Goddess all across America. The most prominent statue being what? The Statue of Liberty. Another term for Columbia was Libertas. There's a Statue of Libertas in Washington, D.C. Now we see in Latin, the word for dove is what? Columba. So we're saying the same term over and over and over again, the same translation, because the concept is the Mother Goddess is the dove. So what is the word that means dove in the Latin or the quote-unquote romantic languages? It is Columba. That is why they decided to stage that mass ritual, that sacrifice, that quote-unquote massacre in Colombo, Sri Lanka for Easter. Easter is the Mother Goddess. Okay, so brothers, this figurine right here is of the quote-unquote Greek, but really Babylonian goddess Aphrodite. And she's holding in her left hand the dove. The name for dove in Greek is patisteti. And there's some belief that the etymology of that term patisteti goes back to a concept meaning the bird of Ishtar. Once again, the Mother Goddess is Ishtar or Inanna, and she became known as Aphrodite, Juno, so on and so forth. And the name always means the same thing, or there's always an allusion to the same concept or image of the dove, because the dove is representative of the Holy Spirit. Really the spirit of any person, but the Holy Spirit in particular. Once the Mother Goddess got to be aligned with the Holy Spirit, She therefore became a part of the quote-unquote triune, or the Trinity, on the left hand or Luciferian side. Now, brothers, I've shown this photo before. This is of the quote-unquote goddess Libertas. This is in Washington, D.C., atop the Capitol building, if I remember correctly. This, once again, is the quote-unquote mother goddess. This is also meant to be her in her war goddess altar, Athena or Sekhmet or what have you. Now, brothers, this photo right here is from a history book from the 1800s showing the mother goddess in her altar as the dove goddess. I believe that this manifestation here is of Asherah, a Canaanite goddess. Once again, right underneath you see it says the dove goddess. This photo right here is from a ritual that just occurred to commemorate the 20th year anniversary of the quote-unquote Columbine massacre. I've already went into detail on what actually occurred in Columbine in 1999 in the videos that I did on Cardi B. Once again, that was for the mother goddess, and I believe that that event also occurred in late April around Earth Week. Both Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris were under the programming, and they were both witches. This is another photo from the ritual that occurred to commemorate Columbine. That practice of releasing doves into the sky after a death, a murder, a sacrifice, or what have you, that goes back to the ancient world, because the dove represents the spirit of man or woman. This is also Asherah, and as we can see once again, she has the dove in her left hand. This goddess, quote-unquote goddess, was worshipped by the Canaanites. The Canaanites, as I'm sure most of you brothers know if you read the scriptures, they were a Hamitic nation that was very influential all across the known world. In conventional history, they're known as the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians took their religion and their understanding on how to worship the quote-unquote gods of the old world all across the known world. And they practiced child ritualistic sacrifice probably more than any other nation at that time, even coming down to today. The concept of Luciferianism that's practiced today is an amalgamation of the old Canaanite religion, the Kemetic religion, the Babylonian mystery school system, so on and so forth. They combine all of that together. Now, brothers, this image right here is, of course, of the mother goddess yet again. And as we can see, as I've told you, brothers, they always link the mother goddess up with her son. In this case, this appears to be Aphrodite and Cupid, because the boy has wings. She's holding in her right hand the what? The dove. Now, this image right here is taken from Beyonce's legendary, her classic video for the extremely Luciferian song, Sweet Dreams. And the video was just as Luciferian as the song was. This is an image of her floating up over her bed as her spirit leaves her body. And we can see the image of the what? The dove hovering over her, because she's going to start to take on the personification of the mother goddess. That video for Sweet Dreams is one of the more blatantly Luciferian videos that have ever been made, particularly in the last 25 years or so. But anyway, brothers, just to get back to the point, please understand that the event that occurred this past Sunday, Easter Sunday, April 21st, was for the mother goddess. It was not done by any so-called Islamic radicals. That's why they attribute the blame to ISIS. The term ISIS is meant to be an allusion to the mother goddess. Okay? So peace.